Alright, here we are again. It is Thursday, so this would be my third day in a row of recording. It's currently in the morning. I'm out on the balcony. The sun is rising. Cars are driving by. People are walking by. And I'm not today at work, as we're a little bit slow, and I felt like resting. And well, this is actually quite exhausting. Mentally exhausting, I suppose. But anyways, it's morning. I feel the energy coming back. It's good to have rest, and importantly, being able to express all of this is already. I'm feeling some satisfaction from that. Like feeling good, feeling like something was trying to get out and it couldn't get out for a long time, and I can't bottle this stuff up. As I mentioned before, and part of the context of this recording is it's been about 2 years since the last time. That was the trip across Canada, coast to coast, for 3 months, driving and working on the last piece, which in itself was probably a 1.5 or 2 year, maybe 2 year writing series. Yeah, probably 3 years if you include the Crypto Town stuff. So this has been my number one go-to for being able to express myself and feeling like I can be heard, and that I can make meaningful connections, meaningful relationships with people based on my work. So I feel like I feel very satisfied and joyful, and just lifted whenever I feel that synchronicity, that people are gathering and things are happening together. It feels good. So this has been, I guess you could say, an outlet to sort of what could be seen along an axis of dichotomy, as mania versus depression. Over time, since the Spirit came to me over 5 years ago, it started with an incredible up, or a high, you could say. This was the rebirth experience, and then it went very low, and then like very deep for a while. Probably took about half a year for depression to set in, and then I quit my job and I started doing art. I started painting just to get some ideas out. Then I got into videos, doing doing YouTube videos, just like where I would talk like this kind of stuff a little bit, but I didn't make too much content like that. This was after the emergency preparedness series that I did, which was during my gauntlet of fear times, which is where what I call that endless pursuit of crypto power, of trying to uncover and gain insight into the systems of the world and who's really pulling all the strings. And let me tell you, that ends with phenomenology, that particular endeavor, that direction. It eventually leads back to yourself and back to your own experience and who you are and who other people are. So anyways, that was the Gauntlet of Fear. Then the last over 5 years of kind of manic depression, I guess I call it. I never really looked it up too much or read into it, but I feel like I can understand what mania is. It's when all possibility opens up to you, and you feel like anything is possible, and then you spin your wheels most often. In this case, I've been spinning my wheels, trying to figure out how to not simply spin my wheels. But when I throw down the chains of depression and the games of the mind, which cause this. So as I was saying before, the calcification of the abstract phase space. But this is what, in my experience, this is the depression that I never realized was a depression. So I was being under an unnecessary burden of my own APS because I simply didn't know what the APS did. I didn't have any protocols for like the feedback protocol for intentionally trying to update the APS, or to have the communion with your environment instead of simply a one-way projection of the APS onto the spectacle. You have this dynamic between the two. And again, if we want to see the triad formation in here, we're looking at the dynamic between concrete and abstract, and of course the rules, or the what's happening here, the connection to the body, the everything, the whole on stack. We're talking, to illuminate that structure and that order, we're talking mimetic. And from there, and through that layer, we can continue down the body into the context, more context. And this is really, I suppose, the physical direct path to, if you've heard about embodiment or spiritual rebirth, and you're like, what is he talking about? The body? I have a body, of course I have a body, but I'm not referring to the flesh. I've mentioned a number of times that we have to, part of this is to be able to envision, I guess the example I gave of organs being externalized, organs being mediated, and the organs are what's taking care of the constraints of the body, all the various constraints. The organs are sort of like protocols for making that happen, the protocols that will make that happen. So the organs being externalized, they change shape, and your internal organs, what you have access to, such as the client side, you could say, of this operation of computational propaganda. So there's the internal APS, so to speak, the internal abstract phase space, that which is understood from a direct consequence of your skills and abilities, and how you think about the various organs of the various things that you need to get done. So for example, if you need food, if you're hungry, well, go to the supermarket or go to the drive-through and get food. So if that's your protocol, then that means, well, hopefully when you get there, there's going to be food, and people are running other protocols to serve it to you and all this kind of stuff. So those are agents of interface agents to externalize protocols, which are not isomorphic or embedded in a strange loop, or how would you want to say, more so interactive, a two-way communication, two-way Just grabbing my phone inside. So that's one type of, so that's a mediated, those are mediated protocols which make you an agent of a foreign system which you are not able to actively emerge. Like you're not, what you're doing is, as far as your own authority is very much managed in the system and blocked and guarded against by protocol to protect against the self-management of the system by those who are in it. Except of course for these the mediated management structure. But anyways, so getting back to the organs, our organs have been harvested over time. This is something that happened to your ancestors. In this sense of society, a baby, for example, a newborn baby has never been expected to have developed these organs. They know nothing. We are doing everything for them. And so when we grow up, traditionally you could say these organs, these how you relate to each other to get your needs met, the constraints of the body to be satisfied, you work together. You be taught something. You be taught a lot of skills. The degree of specialization was not nearly as extreme. In other words, there was no money. So when there's no money, there's automatically a very much more dynamic reliance on skill, of knowing, of being aware who has certain skills and how to get things done. At the very least, your agent software or agent protocols to connect into that particular organ, at least you have an idea of the constraints at play. Even if you don't know how to do it, this is important because then you can call up and summon parts of your society which you believe will be necessary to perform some kind of project or some kind of activity over time. And so also importantly, when this commodity or whatever it is, product or service, comes to you and you interface with it, you have the required or at least the good, well enough knowledge to know how to demand quality as a customer. Trying to think of how to say that in a how an indigenous or an what kind of culture are we calling this? I guess pre-alphabet or pre-externalized memory. So oral tradition cultures. You had to have a much more broader range or scope of awareness of at least of the basic how things are supposed to work together. Whereas in modern society, specialization, manufacturing, and all this kind of stuff, we would never know if our food is good for us. We just accept that this whatever arrangement is good for us because they're selling it to us. And you have stuff like canola oil, also known as rapeseed oil, which was always an industrial oil until I think 50 years ago or something. They figured out how to remove enough of the toxins, the chemicals which are toxic to humans, how to remove enough of those so that it becomes acceptable to standards as far as the level of those particular toxin. And this is widely used. Canola oil is widely used everywhere. But it's just an example of why would you ever think that that's a great idea to use that instead? Well, it's incredibly cheap. Okay, but is this oil something that's been selected for, and throughout, like we have so many foods that are you could say genetically engineered before we ever figured out how to do that chemically. So using selection, you could say artificial selection. It's a, I guess, type of natural selection, but we are simply keeping the seeds of the plants that serve us well and only propagating those best samples. That would be a specialization as well, probably. Like, not every farm has to worry about that, but that's the heirloom type stock or whatever. So I came up with this rallying cry, or this slogan, and it was right near the end of the last recording. I liked it. It was something like deharvest an Oregon deharvesting plant. So this is an idea for a hyperstition, a symbol set, a new symbol set to just copy over Portal Mountain, to give it the sheen or the veneer of something that Eon would appreciate and understand, was that the implanting of the chip. So this is part of the operations that go on at the plant, and of course you show up at the plant and there's a guest area, the waiting room. There's say some emergency access or back doors to this plant, and so we're creating a reflection of the Portal Mountain symbol set, and in order to use it as for one, an example of what a theme, I guess you could say a symbol set theme looks like with Portal Mountain. So we would have the interactions would appear differently. This would be a more type of matrixy type, maybe cliche scenario, but with cool, like futuristic gadgets and whatever we choose to however we choose to perceive this. So this could be a collaborative, a community type effort of storytelling. So what we would do is try to set up some basic outlines, like say, okay, in this scene, this is where this happens, and you got to make sure that in order to advance the isomorphic narrative, this particular thing has to be noted. We have to talk about this object and talk about this object, and get that into the storyline. So, like, I'm just imagining like a collaborative mythology creation, like creation of an actual live mythology, like we have with Portal Mountain. But perhaps I'm just thinking that the community and society in general, like that sci-fi kind of vibe, I think people are interested in. It's somewhat familiar, it's somewhat exciting. There's a lot of spectacular imagery and imagination potential. So anyways, that's just an idea for a project. Probably we'll get to something like that eventually. Right now it's just the boring Portal Mountain symbol set, trying to be as kind of neutral as possible on the selection of words as far as triggering is concerned. So we're kind of targeting a secular atheist, materialist culture. That's the specifics of this, which is why perhaps it may sound or seem so boring to people. So that's the Portal Mountain, the lobby, campus, and the academy. Which are arranged as a going inner or inwards, inner towards higher coherence, towards more rarefied air,